So, may I welcome everybody to the special meeting of the Panel on Constitutional Affairs to discuss the method for selecting Chief Executive by Universal Suffrage in 2017. And you're invited to give your comments on the issue, and this session will last till 7 p.m. Now, I will invite deputations to give your views with a time limit of 3 minutes according to the order here, and on reaching 3 minutes there'll be a beep, and I'm afraid you have to stop there. If you have written submissions, we welcome them. Please give your submissions to the Secretariat, and the Secretariat will distribute them to government officials and members. And I'd like to remind all of you that for members of the public attending the meeting to give your views, you're not protected under the Legislative Council Powers and Privileges Ordinance, nor will your submission be covered by the Electoral PNP Ordinance. And when you speak, please stay close to the microphone so that we can hear you more easily. If you can't hear clearly, you can put on the earpiece, and we have a number of channels. We have Cantonese, English, and Putonghua. And we also issued to you points to note when attending a meeting in the Legislative Council. So please follow the points to note. And after you've spoken, I'll invite the Secretary for CMA, Mr. Lau Kwong-wah, to give you a brief response. And then I will ask if members here would like to ask questions. So, may I first invite Ms. Bonnie Leung. The Civic Party all along says that the Civic Party will boycott the second round consultation of the government because we have made our point, we have completed all discussions. Mr. Lau Kwong-wah would surely understand the position of 800,000 population who took part in the referendum and the Alliance for True Democracy. There are also groups in the community which wish to discuss with the government. They would want to have universal suffrage and also to do it to the satisfaction of the CPG. However, after the 31st August decision, the government pushed these groups of people to the state of despair and pushed them to stand up for themselves and resist. And after the umbrella movement, the government realized that there is a wide social divide in the community, and now we're in such a plight, and somebody should be blamed. And now the government pretends to be open-minded, they pretend to be willing to listen. And some say that there is still room for discussion, and some say that even though we now don't have true universal suffrage, we can have that in 2022. And also there are suggestions that some members originally from the Democratic camp would become officials, government officials, and they say there is room for discussion, and yet the gate requiring the endorsement of half of all members of NC would not change. Well, in the basic law, let me ask you, where in the basic law says that, like what is said in the white paper, that the Central People's Government has the ultimate say on this matter? And where does it say in the basic law that endorsement from half of all the members of MC should be sought? It's not said in the basic law. So for these senior government officials and the team led by Mrs. Carrie Lam, our Chief Secretary, shame on you. In the previous session, and I was watching the broadcast upstairs, a lady said that the pandemics should not get in the way for the implementation of universal suffrage. What if the candidates would that could exit the gate are Lau Kwong-wah and the thought what would happen, and they should be made aware that it's really the Communist Party who made the selection, not them, and the Civic Party would definitely veto the proposal. Thank you for mentioning me as one of the candidates. Mr. Chan Kwok Si. Well, Hong Kong, authorized by the Central People's Government, has high degree of autonomy, but Hong Kong is only a local administrative region of mainland. It's not a country or an independent political state. The umbrella movement is, in fact, the color revolution with the backing of Western countries like UK and US. And now we have the suggestion of independence in Hong Kong, and this will harm the sovereignty and national safety. We must understand that one country goes before two systems. If we are subject to external forces to subvert the Central People's Government, then our economy will be harmed and people will have to suffer. Most of Hong Kong people agree that constitutional development should take place in a gradual and orderly manner. And because this is the mainstream opinion, it is also conducive to maintaining social and economic stability. Now, our union supports the implementation of universal suffrage for CE election in 2017 under the NPCSC August 31st decision and basic laws framework. And secondly, if the CE elect is not appointed by the CPG, the NC will need to kickstart the nomination procedure again, and the CE's election ordinance will have to be revised to incorporate such scenario of re-election. Now, I want to say that for the pandemics, you are wasting millions of public taxpayers' money by filibustering, and yet you create all the damages, and then you just go away, and then you try to steal spotlight. You put up umbrellas indoors for the media to take photos. You always claim yourself to be Martin Luther King, to be Gandhi, to be revolutionists, but you are not nothing but Jiang Jingwei. You only care about the number of votes you get, and once the election is over, your voters, your supporters will be pushed aside, and you adopt a very perfunctory manner, and you also receive dirty political money. You receive lots of benefits and fame, but what have you done to really improve people's livelihood? You have done nothing, politically speaking, and you only let Hong Kong people suffer. And according to the universal suffrage, in accordance with the basic law and the NPCSC decision, is a genuine universal suffrage. Next, Mr. Lam, Tony Lam. Well, the Hong Kong Clerical and Professional Employees General Union have the following views on the issue. The implementation of universal suffrage for the CE election in 2017 should be in strict compliance with the framework under the Basic Law and the NPC decision on the 1st of August 2014. And on the methods for selecting the Chief Executive, we have the following points. First of all, on the composition of the NC, in accordance with the NPCSC August 31st decision, we agree that the number of members should be 1,200 with four major sectors and 38 subsectors, so that there is balanced participation. And we also think that the existing 38 subsectors and the way the subsectors are created is a matter of long-standing practice, and it is also familiar to the public. There is no need to change it. On nominating procedure, the stage of nomination, it can be divided into two stages. That is members' recommendation and the committee's nomination. And on members' recommendation, when there is 120 recommendation, then the person can be returned as a valid CE candidate. And on the voting procedure for NC, we can have one person 2 to 3 votes in selecting 2 to 3 candidates. And also on a term of office, the existing requirement of 5 years could be maintained so that in the case of vacancy, an election can be held in time.
Fourth, in terms of the voting of the chief executive, we should have 2 rounds. In the first round, the nominee should receive at least 50% of the votes. If none of the candidates receive 50% of the votes, then a second round will be necessary. And in the second round, nominees who receive 50% or more of the votes will be elected as the chief executive. And in terms of the political background of the chief executive, since Hong Kong doesn't have political party laws and regulations, in order to avoid conflicts of interest, the chief executive should not have any political affiliations. And we should follow the basic law and the decision of the MPCSC in order to implement the universal suffrage for the selection of the chief executive, and we can have a one person, one vote system. Thank you very much. Ms. Ko Yong Lai. Hong Kong people are very fortunate. In the past, we embraced the so-called Lion Rock spirits, and it brought us a lot of prosperity. Hong Kong people are industrious, pragmatic, and they created a lot of economic miracles. But 17.5 years after the handover, do you feel that our economy has stagnated, investment has regressed, and the competent people have all moved out? And a lot of countries are working hard to develop their economies, but at the same time in Hong Kong we have a lot of politicians insist only on democracy, and they feel and they believe that democracy is everything, and democracy is the only thing we need. And as a result, they even sacrifice public interests. So many people and merchants have been affected over the 79-day umbrella movement, and these people embrace democracy to the extreme, and they talk about real universal suffrage, and they are always against the government and standing in the way of the government's policy making, etc. So Hong Kong has effectively become a battleground for political struggles. In order to build a likable city, we need a lot of factors. Democracy is not the only thing. We must have rule of law. We have harmony. We need a prosperous economy, and we need to be united. And Hong Kong is made up of many families, and as with families, members have to respect and support each other. The Hong Kong government is our homemaker, and as members of the family, we have to support each other and help each other so that the government can fulfill its role. Hong Kong people love democracy and freedom, but at the same time, they also look forward to sensible discussions on how to build a harmonious society. So I support a gradual and orderly manner in terms of developing democracy, and I support the universal suffrage of the chief executive in 2017. We can optimize the details and the progress as soon as gradually, and we have a saying that the family is an important vehicle in promoting harmony in our community. So we shouldn't just oppose the government, and we should actually think about promoting the economy and Hong Kong's democracy. Mr. Cheng Kin Sing. With regards to rule of law, since the umbrella movement surfaced, C.Y. Leung labeled it as an illegal activity, an illegal gathering. The Hong Kong government did not enforce the law, and they only relied on certain satellite organizations and come up with injunctions in order to crack down on the protesters. There were no reason to use any violence at all, but C.Y. Leung was the one who was responsible for all the violence. And you saw that a lot of triads and police were involved, apart from tear gas, police batons. A lot of these tools were used, and some people were seriously injured. The basic law stated very clearly that our political reform should take a gradual and orderly manner, and we should have eliminated the functional constituencies a long time ago, but yet they're still here. So how can we improve? Someone earlier mentioned that forces from UK and US were behind the umbrella movement. I can tell you that what I can say is, how about the 50 million C.Y. Leung received from Australia? And the DAB received 70 million in donations overnight. So where did all these monies come from? And now you are allowing those who violated against the law to go on. And so my word for C.Y. Leung is, if I ask your daughters to choose their husbands from 3 candidates, what are they going to do? You said we have a choice, but then it's never a real choice. Let's be honest. C.Y. Leung and Carrie Lam should stop acting. And you said you have Mr. Lau Kong Wah. You experienced firsthand what democracy is. You gave a lot of pamphlets, and now you used to be in the DAB, and now you are the undersecretary. And if this small circle election persists, you might even be the next CE. We shouldn't just pocket it. There's no such thing as pocketing it. So we should have a referendum. Tomorrow, let's meet at Victoria Park at 2 p.m. When you speak, please focus on the topic of the 2017 Universal Suffrage for the CE. Next, Wong Kwok Sing. I would like to share with you our views on the Universal Suffrage of the 2017 Chief Executive, and I'd like to say something with the makeup of the nominating committee. And we should have 1,200 people. We should have 38 subsectors and 4 sectors, and we think that we should have 2 phases within the nominating committee. First is the nominating phase, and the candidate must receive joint named nominations from at least 150 members, and each member can nominate 1 person. In order to encourage more people to participate, each candidate can receive a maximum of 300 nominations. And in the nomination phase, in order to avoid any influence from external factors, a secret ballot should be conducted. Since the nominating committee has to come up with 2 or at most 3 candidates, the nominating committee should allow each member to vote for 2 or 3 candidates, and the term should be 5 years. And with regards to the voting arrangements for the CE, we propose a 2-round voting system. If the CE-elect is not appointed from the central government, we think the nominating process should be restarted, and if necessary, the existing Chief Executive Election Ordinance should be amended. And with regards to the political background of the CE, since Hong Kong doesn't have any political party laws and we have no consensus in the community as of yet, we suggest that in the 2017 election, the existing regulations should be retained, including requirements on the political affiliation of the CE. So these are my suggestions, and I hope the administration can take them on board. We hope by 2017 we can have a one-person, one-vote election. Just now, I thought I arrived in the wrong room because we are supposed to talk about the universal suffrage of the 2017 CE, but I noticed that a lot of members have been sidetracked. So this is just my 2 cents. Mr. Chair Xiaoman. In December last year, hotels were planned in Shao Kei Wan, and the public consultation was conducted, and hundreds of comments were received, and 97% of the respondents opposed to the plan, and I was one of them. So sometimes I'm really skeptical with the public consultation exercise conducted by the government. But here I am again today. My first request is we shouldn't have any more fake consultations. I hope the government can treasure all our views. And second, I agree with the one-person, one-vote system on the basis that we have a fair election system. And right now, the gates set by the NPC are certainly not fair. And in my opinion, in a fair election system, the selection method of the candidates must change. Because the nominating committee, the 1,200 people can never represent us or myself, and none of them can represent myself or my family members. And none of the 1,200 members can represent, let's say, a staff working at KFC, and they cannot represent the homeless people who are living under the bridge. So the nominating committee is certainly not broadly representative. I think we should have a nominating committee with an electorate base, and we should even abolish the nominating committee and replace it with civic nomination. Mr. Chen Lapchi. I think the nominating committee the arrangements should stay the same. There's nothing we need to change. And the nominating process should also remain the same. And the process of nominating C candidates under the nominating committee should be divided into 2 phases. And with 200 votes, those with 200 votes or above can become a nominee. And this should be done on a secret ballot basis. And in the list, 2 or 3 candidates would be chosen. And each member cannot vote for more than 1 candidate, and with 50% of the support from all the NC members, and the term of the nominating committee should be 5 years. The universal suffrage of the CE should be on one person, one vote basis, and the candidate with the most vote would win. And if the CE elect is not appointed by the central government, the nominating committee will have to restart the nomination process, and the existing Chief Executive Election Ordinance should be amended in order to clarify arrangements on any re-elections. And the CE candidates should not have any political affiliations. We face a critical moment now. And the most important thing is that we can have 1 vote each in the universal suffrage of our next CE. We should put our personal interests aside and not sacrifice the welfare of the general public. This change means everyone in Hong Kong is able to vote. This is one important step in the development of democracy. Later on, we can further refine the process. And since the first consultation exercise, we have seen that a lot of people are trying to damage the rule of law. They are trying to divide the society. They are very destructive. And this is not something any reasonable citizen should do. The politicians are playing dirty tricks. So we think we should be decisive. We should look at the big picture, and we should be decisive and look at the big picture, or else we can never achieve success. So we should adopt a gradual and orderly manner according to the basic law.
Next, Mr. Chu Chi-fung. Thank you, Chairman. Recently, the government has been saying that it is difficult for the pan-democrats to change their minds, but they will strive on. I don't know why. Instead of focusing their energy on urging the NPCSC to withdraw the decision, they're focusing effort in persuading the Pandems to change their stance, because through and through this is a fake universal suffrage. The NPCSC August 31st decision imposed several gates, and a candidate must get at least endorsement from half of all the NC members. This is not real universal suffrage. This is not a CE return by one person, one vote, representing the wish of everyone in Hong Kong. Also, a genuine democratic election gives everyone a basic political right. There is nothing like 1,200 member NC members who have privileges. Well, just like the lady said just now, what about the waitress at KFC? What about other people in Hong Kong? Their wishes can never be heard. I don't know whether you have watched the recent TV program of RTHK. Mr. Shi Wing-tai was invited as guest, and according to him, the Bar Association also issued a statement. Also, this is not mentioned in the basic law. In another paragraph of the submission, he said that under the existing legal framework, the Hong Kong government can create a proposal that contains an element similar to the civic nomination, and yet according to the government's report, it is said that civic nomination is not in compliance with the basic law framework and NPCSC decisions. So is this a kind of fallacy on the part of the government? I don't know why the government continues to launch its publicity effort by suggesting that those opposing are not complying with the law. Have you really performed your role in representing the people and urging the CPG to withdraw the NPCSC decision? Well, we're now in 2015, and it's been 30 years since we started to strive for democracy. Ever since the early 2004 NPCSC decision that scrapped universal suffrage in 2010, there was another decision, and now we're still waiting. 2017 is approaching. How long should I wait? Next, Mr. Lam Chun Yip. Well, I'm a university student, and I have something to say about the umbrella movement. The government might have cleared the area, but the government could not erase the ideas in people's minds. During the movement, people made it clear that there should be equal right of people to vote, to nominate and stand for election. and to ensure that there is no unreasonable screening in the nomination process. The government, time and again, used the pretext of the NPCSC August 31st decision to deny people's demand for true democracy. And the police's and the government's credibility had also been sacrificed, and the police was used as a tool to oppress students in the movement. The SAR government should be our people's government. They should serve us. They should strive to have universal suffrage from the CPG. However, the CY Leung 689's administration went against our people and went against our demand for democracy. For students like us in the umbrella movement, we really feel angered by all the inequalities and injustices in the CE election. And our demand is a very humble one. We want to decide for our own future, and only by implementing genuine universal suffrage could we do that. Could we take back the rights of our people from the few privileged. We must choose our own government that can really represent our people so that we can really have Hong Kong people ruling Hong Kong. And yet the administration just ignored all the requests. The government even smeared the umbrella movement, and protesters in the movement were demonized as rioters and rascals. And they also said that those taking part in the umbrella movement are deceiving themselves. In fact, this is the same as antagonizing young people in Hong Kong who love Hong Kong as the enemy of the Hong Kong government. And I want to remind the government that Hong Kong young people in Hong Kong will not be bought out. We want Hong Kong as a place with core values so that we can decide on our own future. If the government continues to be stubborn, then there'll be a price to pay because the young people will continue to take to the streets. Mr. Chen Kwok-sing. Thank you, Chairman. On the method for selecting the chief executive in 2017, I have the following views. In Hong Kong, we have one country, two systems. We can't only talk about two systems and not one country. So, as far as the method for selecting the chief executive by universal suffrage is concerned, the first and foremost principle is that it must be under the basic law, the framework of basic law and NPCSC August 31st decision. And we didn't have CE election in the past. It was only after 1997, after reunification, that we started to have election for the chief executive of Hong Kong. So the history isn't very long. It takes time to grow and develop as far as the system is concerned. Just like a baby growing up, we need to watch it grow and develop. Same as an election system. We cannot reach maturity in one go, or there will be consequences to the whole society. Last year, we had this experience. A group of people disregarded other people's interests, disregarded the law, and took part in illegal activities, causing wide divide in society. As a result, our election method should only be changed slightly, not substantially, because we can never achieve genuine democratic election in one go. This is my view. I hope that we ultimately could reach the aim of a democratic election in Hong Kong, but in a gradual and orderly manner. And here are my suggestions. On the nominating committee, in the past we had a 1,200 member EC, and also 38 subsectors in 4 sectors, and it is proven long effective. Therefore, the subsectors and sectors and the composition should remain the same so as to avoid other problems arising. And also, there is no need to change the electoral base of all subsectors. On nominating procedures, there should be 2 stages. One is members' recommendation. There should be at least 150 members of the EC making the nomination, making the recommendation before the candidate could become qualified, and it should be done in a named manner. Nominating procedure. Using secret ballot, each NC member can vote for 2 to 3 persons, but they must not repeat. And there should be 2 to 3 candidates, and the term of office should remain the same as the existing term, that is 5 years for the CE. Rounds of voting. There should be 2 rounds. If we don't have, your time is up. Your time is up. Next, Mr. Raymond Song. Thank you, Chairman. Well, my view is very simple. I think universal suffrage is what we should ask for. It's better than nothing, and we should have it as soon as possible. The 1200 NC would be better than a 1200 EC only, and we should not lose this chance of implementing universal suffrage for CE election as soon as possible. So we should give the chance to 3 million eligible voters. Another point is this: after reunification in 1997, we seem to have neglected this point. We are just a local administrative region. In the mainland, we are not an independent sovereign state. So when it comes to one country, 2 systems, we should respect the constitutional power of the CPG and its sovereignty. We must not cross the line as to suggest independence in Hong Kong. That is why we should respect the role of the CPG in the constitutional development of Hong Kong. The CPG has constitutional power and authority over Hong Kong. This is what Hong Kong people should respect. I don't want to spend time on the details. I just want to emphasize one point. On the voting arrangements for CE's election for universal by universal suffrage, I support the 4th type, that is to have the supplementary voting system. Well, this is controversial, and Hong Kong is not a big place, and we should select our chief executive as soon as possible. So we should aim at selecting our chief executive in just 1 round only to save time and effort. Hong Kong is a place, a business center with a quick pace lifestyle, and we should not waste too much time on rounds of election. And this is my view. On appointment of CE, in an event that the CE elect is not appointed by the CPG, I agree that there should be a re-election, because we should respect the authority of the CPG constitutionally. It has the substantive power of appointment. And in the event of this happening, we should kickstart the election process again. And there should be arrangements of a watching government and the agent or deputy CE. Now, I think the arrangement should be relaxed, because so far we see conflicts between the administration and the executive, posing hurdles to the administration's governance. Next, Mr. Cheung King Leung. Thank you, Mr. Tam, our chairman. Well, I wasn't able to respond to deputations like Ms. Cole. Democracy is not everything. Democracy cannot safeguard everything, but democracy can guarantee that we don't have poisonous beef. For example, we can guarantee that in the event of somebody like C.Y. Leung receiving $50 million without declaring his interest, we could rein him in and put him to justice. And I see a lot of familiar faces in Hong Kong, in this room, and I see Chairman Mr. Tam and other officials, and I see a lot of people just echoing with the government suggestion, for example, that the NC should be maintained and that there should be 38 subsectors in 4 sectors. But we're talking about constitutional reform. If we don't make any changes, what kind of reform is that? There is no need to discuss it. On the 7th of January, Mrs. Carrie Lam attended the electoral meeting to brief members on the constitutional developments consultation. And she also said more or less the same. And it just occurred to me that she was like Mr. Stephen Lam a few years ago, who was criticized as the human recording machine. And on the 7th of January, Mrs. Carrie Lam said that it will be futile or impractical if we don't follow the legal basic law framework and the NPCSC decision. And well, just like the DAB, I think Mrs. Carrie Lam is really shameful, and there should be an equal and fair opportunity for a platform to be provided for candidates to explain their manifestos, their ideologies to members of the public.
So my question for the Chief Secretary is that for CE chosen by a 1,200 nominating committee, how can you compare it with ACE voted with civic nomination? That's my question for the Chief Secretary. I only have 30 seconds left. In recent years, we have had a lot of slogans, and these are not concrete recommendations. I think this is a very dangerous scenario. In Hong Kong, we have a number of slogans, and these slogans show that there's no more room for discussion between Hong Kong people and the government. I would like to remind the government to listen to the people of Hong Kong. You should not stand against the comments of Hong Kong people, or else your governance will become more and more difficult. Next, Ms. Wong Hiu Tong. I'm a student, and here are my views. Hong Kong's chief executive should be nominated by the entire Hong Kong people. We want civic nomination, and each member of the public should be able to nominate. If one candidate can secure a specific percentage of the votes, he can become the chief executive. So this is the most broadly representing manner to conducting the votes. And in the nominating process, we should be more democratic as well. According to Article 45 of the Basic Law, the universal suffrage of the chief executive will be achieved by a broadly representative nominating committee. For the 1,200 NC we have, I don't see how it is broadly representative, and the number of people represented is only 250,000, and you are saying that you already have one person, one vote. We don't even have the most basic nomination right. And applicants can must secure 50% of the votes from the NC members before they can become candidates. How on earth can the 1,200 nominating committee represent the entire Hong Kong people? I don't have the right to nominate, so I cannot decide which nominees there will be. So in effect, our election is never a progress or improvement. So you can stop telling us lies and stop telling us to just take it on board first. We should, each of us, each member of the public, should have the right to nominate, be elected, and elect someone else. As a student, without civic nomination, we will not give in. I do not hope our next chief executive would be as bad as C.Y. Leung. Without real universal suffrage, students will continue to fight all they can. Mr. Benny Ng. Chairman, I'm very happy to be invited. On behalf of a student union, I would like to give my views on the universal suffrage of the next chief executive. Universal suffrage should encompass the right to nominate, to elect, and be elected. In other words, the 31st of August decision should not exist whatsoever, because you are not respecting the constituencies of the voters. So I urge the public to speak out for yourselves. Mr. Lau Kong-wah, the Undersecretary, is making hundreds of thousands of dollars each month, but yet he remains silent and he has no contributions. And Rimsky-Yun, Raymond Tam, and the Chief Executive, Carrie Lam, teamed up together, and after that the team was joined in by Mr. Lau Kong-wah and Mr. Edward Yao. These people were exactly the reason why the Occupy movement persisted. And if you continue to embrace the 689 spirits and force the issue over, then this is not something we want. We should continue to develop the universal suffrage in a democratic manner. We do not have to take reference from the MPCSC decision, and as such, the Hong Kong administration should adhere to the basic law, and the administration should ignore the 31st of August decision by NPCSC, which is non-binding in nature. And in the past, Zhao Ziyang from China paid the price by quitting the government, and it should be the same for C.Y. Leung. If we have democracy, if we have an election, I think you should only be allowed to stand for a 5-year term, and after then we can kick you out. So tomorrow, please join us at Victoria Harbour to fight for universal suffrage. Thank you. Mr. Li Ngai Lap, Mr. Liu Li. Hong Kong is part of China, so we have to respect the decision of the MPCSC. But the chief executive should not belong to any political parties in order to avoid any undue diligence in the election process. If the CE elects does not receive appointment by the central government, the nominating committee must restart the nomination process. And the existing chief executive election ordinance must also be amended in order to cover re-election arrangements under this scenario. Mr. Lam Chi Ting. And on behalf of a labor union for the tourism trade, or the Federation of Hong Kong Trade Unions in Tourism, we fully support the universal suffrage of the CE in 2017 under the MPCSC decision. We have the following suggestions. On the basis that the NC will remain a 1,200 people committee, and also the unchanged makeup of the 4 sectors, we consider that the existing election method is relatively reliable, and in order to save time and reduce controversies, we should retain 38 subsectors and the number of people, and the election method and director and electorate base should also remain unchanged, and the term should remain at 5 years. And the nominating committee should conduct voting on a holistic basis, and each member can recommend 1 candidate. And if the applicant receives at least 150 or at most 300 votes, he can become a nominee. And the nominees on the list should be voted one by one, and the ones with the most votes and those who receive 50% of the votes from members can become official candidates. And on the voting arrangements on the universal suffrage of the CE, all eligible voters, including those residing outside of Hong Kong, can choose the CE on a one-person, one-vote basis in order to enhance recognition. And we recommend using the supplementary voting system. And if the CE elects is not appointed by the central government, the nominating committee must restart the nomination process and introduce re-election procedures under the Chief Executive Election Ordinance. And just like now, the CE should not belong to any political parties, according to the ordinance. And the Chief Executive must be held accountable to the central government and protects the basic law in Hong Kong, and he or she should also be loyal to the Hong Kong government and fulfill this obligation as a Chinese citizen. We hope that the Hong Kong public anticipates the chance to be able to elect the next CE by one person, one vote approach, and we should take a gradual and orderly basis. You cannot expect progress overnight. So I hope the community can respect the basic law and the decision by MPCSC and adopt a pragmatic manner and approve the political reform proposal so that we can move forward. Mr. Chen Man-yi, I submitted a statement with regards to my view on the 2017 CE election, so I will outline my statement. We completely agree with the implementation of universal suffrage of the CE in 2017 according to the basic law and the 31st of August decision by MPCSC, and I have the following suggestions. First, the makeup and methodology and the forming method of the nominating committee. And according to the decision of the MPCSC on the 31st of August, the nominating committee should be made up of 1,200 people. And according to the existing regulations of the election committee, we should have 4 sectors and more each sector should have 300 people. And we should the nomination process should be divided into 2 phases: members nomination and committee nomination. And in the first phase, applicants with at least 100 nominations can become candidates, and this way we can encourage more people to take part and share their manifesto, so that the public and nominating committee will have more choices. And on the voting approach, we recommend a secret ballot approach, and after the nominees are identified by the NC members, they will no longer be restricted by any sectors, and we should retain a 5-year term for the chief executive, and there's nothing we should change, so that in case of vacancies we can have re-elections. And the voting arrangements, the candidate with the most votes should win. This is easiest to understand for the public and also easy to operate. And finally, as Ms. Carrie Lam mentioned, we are only one step away from universal suffrage of the chief executive. I hope everyone can consider the general interest of the Hong Kong public, and hopefully we can approve the proposal and continue to monitor the government, and we should also prepare ourselves for the formation of the next Legislative Council in 2020. Next. Mr. Yang K. Chung. We only have Mr. Lau Kong-wah from the FEHD, from the administration today, so I think we can all see how much emphasis the government has put on this issue. This is a picture taken in a shopping mall of a man kneeling down in front of his girlfriend. I'm not sure if you've seen this picture today before. If the government really cares about the one person, one vote election for the next CE, would you kneel down in front of the pro-democrats to to ask for their support. Have you tried your best? If the Pan Democrats said no, then at least you have tried. But if you haven't even tried, then you cannot convince the Hong Kong public. Do you really want to go forward with the political reform? And I agree with a screening process. For instance, we should screen out all DAB candidates. The reason saying that is that, well, Mr. Christopher Chung doesn't even, is almost illiterate, and Dr. N. Chang doesn't even understand the meaning of a national flag. How can you expect these people to understand the basic law? All administrative officers have to undertake a basic law test, but in the consultation process of the political reform, how can the government play gatekeeper with regards to the intelligence of the candidates?
Finally, the administration and the mainland officials made it very clear that the CE election has to do with national security. However, in this consultation document, nothing has been said about the responsibility of the NC to oversee and safeguard national security. Well, that means the members of the NC should not have foreign nationality. If you so care, if you care so much about national security, how can they vow to or pledge allegiance with the mainland authority? And now the CE's wife has become the chair of the Hong Kong Army Cadet, and she in fact has British nationality, and this is about supporting CE, supporting the government, and yet the leader of the cadets can have foreign national identity. So if you're really so concerned about national security, then all candidates with wives or spouse with foreign national identity should not stand in the election. I want to clarify that Mr. Lau Kong-wai is Under Secretary of CMAB. Next, Ms. Yun Wai Chan. I think the framework of basic law and August 31st NPCSC is not in line with the NPCSC's interpretation in 2007-2004. And it's wrong to suggest that the NPCSC August 31st decision should be tied to the a basic law. Any proposal in line with the 31st of August NPCSC decision is not a valid and legitimate proposal, because it also contravenes with the International Convention for Civil and Political Rights. We don't want any CE candidates that have undergone screening. We want one person, one vote, genuine universal suffrage for CE election in Hong Kong. Thirdly, the functional constituencies should be abolished as soon as possible. Small circle elections should be abolished as soon as possible for one person, one vote to be implemented for electrical elections as soon as possible. And if the CPG fails to appoint the chief executive, the Hong Kong government has the responsibility to start the re-election process. The government smeared the Occupy movement. The government just urges the people of Hong Kong to pocket it first, and I express dismay over this. Without formal investigation or an official apology over the incident of police assaulting people, I really feel disappointed. The government should have the humility to listen to the public, and as for the police, there should be a committee with credibility that acts independently and investigate into the misconduct of the police in order to salvage confidence of the public in police. Legislative members have not performed their roles in monitoring the government and monitoring the police and urge for investigation. And again, I express dismay over these members. Oh, please don't digress as you speak. Next, Mr. Mong Siu Tat. The August 31st decision of the NPCSC has set the framework, but the universal suffrage proposed under this framework is a fake one, and we do not accept it. The so-called universal suffrage will not give people real choices. It's nomination by a small circle of NC with the endorsement of the CPG for people to choose, and these are not real choices. In the past, the CE was only elected by an EC, and there is no participation from the public. And even if it's now changed to the nominating committee, the nature is the same. The nomination will have to be made by this small circle. In the past, it's kind of rigging as you watch on TV, but now it's not just rigging as you witness it. You also need to participate in it by placing your bet on the candidates. Ultimately, you will lose. The only difference is that because you also participate in the voting process, you will not be a sore loser, since you also placed your bet, and this is the ulterior motive of the CPG. However, according to the August 31st decision, originally the EC formed by 38 subsectors in 4 sectors will be transitioned to become the nominating committee. And that means for the problems that we have been putting up with, like government business collusion, property hegemony, all these problems will continue. When we talk about 4 sectors and 38 subsectors, you can see in the last election, the EC actually was dominated by the business and the commerce and industrial sector in the 2 sectors. So naturally, the government or the CE so elected would not go against the wishes of the business sector. C.Y. Leung is an example. After his election, has he really implemented anything from his manifesto? He promised to scrap the MPF offsetting arrangement. Now he said nothing. He has said nothing about it because he's afraid of hampering the business sector's interests. So don't just on the one hand say that you support class action rights and standard working hours. On the other hand, you support the small circle election. Well, you can be a hypocrite, but if you want to be a righteous person, please come out and support the genuine universal suffrage. Next, Mr. Curtis Lee. Thank you, Chairman. We just now heard the chanting of the slogans, genuine universal suffrage, no screening, international standards. I want to remind some people that as far as international standards are concerned, even for Western countries like Ukraine, US, they don't have universal suffrage. Their candidates are returned by political parties' elections. And they have 1 person, 2 votes, which means that not everyone is equal. In Hong Kong, after reunification, the basic law stipulates that we can have a fair and equal right to take part in the election of CE. Now, so let me ask you, which is closer to the so-called international standard? Instead of quibbling over these trivial matters, we should discuss how we could implement universal suffrage in a gradual and orderly manner. The so-called framework imposed by the NPCSC decision on August 31st that closes the door, I don't see how the door is closed. We don't have political party laws. We don't have laws governing societies. The decision only sets down the rules of a game, and it's not the case that we can't make any change. So on behalf of the Chinese Macau Federation of Youth the Chinese Hong Kong Federation of Youth Culture, I have the following points to make. First of all, whether there is a need to review the composition of the 38 subsectors in 4 sectors, whether there could be any change. For example, whether we can have a new sector like the sector for the youth, so that young people can also their views on future constitutional development, so that their views can also be incorporated. Also, on the nominating committee's voting procedure, more details can be disclosed. Say, if a member of the NC can have 1 person, 2 votes or 3 votes to increase the democratic element of the CE elect. Instead of political bickerings which would harm our economy, instead of resorting to non-cooperative campaign and chanting of slogans that numbs Hong Kong people and misleads Hong Kong people, which is entirely responsible, we should do otherwise. That's why I appeal to members now that they should really do some real work for people of Hong Kong instead of chanting slogans. Next, Mr. Hong Wing-Kang. Thank you, Chairman. Anyone who would like Hong Kong to excel would think of the golden era that we had. Not many experienced that. Some may also have this golden age thinking about our past. Well, in the past, we were able to grasp our opportunities in the face of military, economic, and political conflicts worldwide. And all along, we have been the cultural port and the exchange between East and West. In terms of manufacturing, export, re-export, we have seen rapid economic growth. At the same time, through our own hard work, we Hong Kong people, some of the Hong Kong people have been able to raise their social status. But in fact, our success hinges upon external factors as well, and the global environment. Nowadays, we no longer have the unique advantages we enjoyed in the past. So this is also there are also problems faced by us, as in other advanced economies, such as high living costs and little room for environment and limited upward mobility for our young people. I think prosperity and stability are the cornerstone of our social development, and at the same time, we must not ignore our future. We should listen to our young people and encourage them to move upward and create more opportunities for our young people to change their future. Coming back to this constitutional development proposal, it should be implemented in a gradual and orderly manner. And on the basis of the existing 4 sectors, we can appropriately add some sectors or subsectors that can represent young people and the grassroots to minimize business government collusion and dominance by major capitalists. Next, Mr. Wong Chi-man. Well, the Occupy movement occurred as a result of diverse views. A wedge is driven in society, and even for siblings and friends, because of their political differences, they've become strangers. And the extent of the damage in people's relationship is really beyond imagination. And I will not repeat the damage caused to our society as a result of the Occupy movement. But we should learn from this experience. In the second round consultation, the government should do better. We really can't afford another blow by the Occupy movement, economically and politically speaking. Striving for democracy and freedom through illegal means is not real democracy. This will only bring instability to society, and we must give this a careful thought. people in society are keen to take part in a discussion on constitutional development, regardless of their views. This is what we want to see, and I think that the following views should be reflected to the government. The first is about the history of Hong Kong and the sense of identity of Hong Kong, and finally our recognition of the authority of the mainland. I think these 3 points should be introduced in our discussion. In particular, the history of the Sino-British Joint Declaration and the importance of the sovereignty of the mainland. All these 3 points are very important, and these should form the basis so that we understand that we must rely on mainland.
After the handover, the Basic Law has become the most important basis of Hong Kong's rule, and under the basis of the Basic Law framework, implementing universal suffrage of the chief executive is a logical move, and it's also a realization of the Basic Law. Some individuals have tried to divide the society, and this way we will only see more and more conflicts. And on the basis of peace, logic, and reason, Hong Kong's political reform can move forward. Today, I urge everyone, including the young people here today, we should reflect on what Hong Kong really needs, and we should also think about Hong Kong's future. I'm also young, and I understand the passion of the young people, but nothing can be achieved overnight. You should give the government some time. Ms. Luk Kem Shing. Today, I'd like to give my view on whether the universal suffrage of the CE complies with the law. And according to the Basic Law, we should have a broadly representative nominating committee. I agree with the existence of a nominating committee, but if this committee only has 1,200 members, compared with the 3.5 million voters in Hong Kong now, this committee is certainly not broadly representative. It's very narrow. If we have a very narrow committee, it's actually against the spirit of the Basic Law. So I suggest that this nominating committee should be expanded to include all 3.5 million voters. As such, this NC will be broadly representative. And this is actually in line with the suggestion of civic nomination. So the Basic Law actually provided a basis for civil nomination. Hong Kong is an inseparable part of the People's Republic of China, and as such, the Basic Law and the election and the selection method of the chief executive should abide to the PRC Constitution. According to Article 2, 33, and 34 of the Constitution, regardless of nationality, race, education, religion, wealth, etc., everyone should enjoy an equal right to elect and be elected, notwithstanding those who are deprived of their political rights permanently. If the nominating committee compromises the rights of some people to elect or be elected, then it's against the PRC Constitution. That means if anyone says we cannot have civil nomination, he or she, his or her view will actually be against the PRC Constitution. Even if you comply with the Basic Law, it doesn't mean that what you're doing is legal. Hong Kong has a lot of NPC representatives who don't know the law. When I came, I wasn't allowed to bring in my backpack, and I asked the reason, And the staff said, the chairman, Tam Yu Chung, said no one can bring any personal belongings. The chairman, our chairman here, doesn't know the law. Please stop. Your time is up. Mr. Tang. Good afternoon, and I'd like to spend a few minutes to give my view. And but I'm not sure if I can say all I want in 3 minutes. In the past, we were in Admiralty and Mongkok and Causeway Bay for 79 days. Did any government officials or legislators actually come and understand what our views are? And the government, the representatives here today are civil servants, but yet they are only sitting here today. I understand that we expect our views to be ignored, but I just want to say that a lot of young people in Hong Kong, our living environments will be getting worse and worse. Our salaries will be lower and lower. And actually, people who are convincing us to just take it on board first, usually talk about welfare. This is exactly what we care about today. We shouldn't be forced to accept proposals by the government. You can see that the daughter of C.Y. Leung just got disappeared, so to speak. And so how can this man represent us? When we talk about political reform, we should not base our discussions on the 31st of August decision. And the government must give us more details, and they cannot just ask us to take it on board first. And the Taxi Association said, and they fought for a taxi stand at cross-border tunnels. They have been fighting for it for 12 years, so I was very touched. And if they had to spend 12 years to achieve that, then the political reform will certainly be a long war for us. We should be persistent. We will not accept any proposal set on prerequisites. We would not just take it on board first. So hopefully we will see you all on the 1st of February at Victoria Harbour. Mr. Lai Chi Po, on the concern group on people who are forced to move out from public housing, and a lot of people in PRH, living in PRH, are concerned with the election of the next CE. In 2017, we should have civil nomination. We should not have any screening. A lot of people who are opposed to it actually have actually exercised civil nomination in a way, including the legislators who were directly elected. We have a housing, we have an organization called Housing Society. I'm not sure how many people living in public housing estate. The hospital authority was actually appointed by the chief executive, and the hospital authority decides all the, and the housing authority actually decides all the rents and every matter related to housing, and it's not accountable to the public because it's appointed by the chief executive. And all the housing policies would not have to go through LegCo because it's only accountable to the chief executives. So by now you can see that if unless we have a truly democratic election, our welfare cannot be improved. So we support a real universal suffrage of the CE without any screening. If there's any screening by the nominating committee or other organizations, how can the candidates or the CE elects be held accountable to the public? And even the head of the Basic Law Committee was appointed by the chief executive, and he will retire soon. And And so even if the government's housing policy is against the will of the public, it doesn't matter to them because because the housing authority is only accountable to the chief executive. So our group supports a real CE election without any screening. Mr. Heng Minghao. Thank you, Chairman. I've been thinking what I should say today. In Nam Sheng Estate, I helped 500 elderly people conducted a cancer screening, and I wrote an article last night. And suddenly I realized that I didn't have to write anymore because it's a waste of my time. I understand why there have been a lot of filibustering at the Legislative Council before. They are really hampering the development of Hong Kong. I agree that the universal suffrage of the CE should be slow and gradual. It's not just about taking it on board first. We should have a framework. We should think about the framework. Why do we have a 1,200 strong nominating committee? Perhaps you have watched a drama, a TV drama by a new operator recently, and I've watched the program as well. Applicants have to receive support from a specific number of members from the nominating committee, but the actual number of votes required is something we can discuss further, and this is something I agree with. I hope we can sit down together and give it some thought. It's Saturday today, and I know it's hard work for the legislators who have been here since 9 a.m. till now. I've been only here for an hour and I feel a bit tired already. I hope we are here today to talk about how we can elect our next CE. We shouldn't talk about Occupy Central, democracy, or else it's just a waste of our time. Before we invite members to ask questions, let's invite the Undersecretary, Mr. Lau Kong-wah, of the CMAB to respond. Thank you very much, Chairman, and all the deputations today for offering your precious views, and as well as some specific suggestions, including the composition of the nominating committee and the electoral method. And all your comments are noted. Some deputations mentioned that no matter what this election will look like, it's better to have it than not have it. And some deputations said that things are always hard at the beginning, and these views are actually in line with our line. And some people think that the Hong Kong government did not relay the relevant comments or suggestions to the central government. And I'd like to reiterate that during the first consultation exercise, we already reflected all the comments and views on the report. We received more than 120,000 comments, and all of them were submitted to the central government. And we've included, and together with the legislative councillors, including the pro-democrats and pro-establishment camp, we visited China for a face-to-face exchange with the relevant officials. So we have reflected the views of the public and the Legislative Council already. So the central government certainly knows about Hong Kong's situation. And with regards to the timeline, and since the Basic Law was established in 1990, and between 1997 to 2007, the MPCSC has had come up with a timeline, and at that time it was decided that we will have universal suffrage of the CE by 2017. And at that time, a lot of the public was very happy to learn about the news. So Right now, in the 5-step process of the political reform, we have finished the first 2 steps. The first step is for the CE to submit a report, and the second step is for the MPCSC to make a decision. And the consultation session today is very important. We will certainly take on board your suggestions, and in the next few months, we will submit a resolution to the Legislative Council and for deliberation by members. So the next few months is a crucial time. If we can pass the pivotal step 3 according to past experience, the 4th and 5th steps would not be too problematic. So we should take an orderly approach in our work. And I'd also like to talk about the timeline for the universal suffrage of the formation of the next Legislative Council today. For if you want universal suffrage for the Legislative Council, you should first pass the universal suffrage of the CE first.
That's the 2007 MPCSC decision. If this time the proposal is not passed, there will be a further delay for universal suffrage for this formation of LegCo. And we heard today different views, some being in favor of the proposal, some being against, and this is a reflection of the views in Hong Kong, and this is all just understandable. But there are different ways of how the CE should be returned, but we have the same goal, that is, there should be 1 person, 1 vote implemented for CE election. If because of minor differences we sacrifice the chance to have 1 person, 1 vote universal suffrage for over 3 million eligible voters so that they cannot exercise their legitimate political rights, it's really a disappointment. I hope our members of the Pan-Democratic camp can consider it very carefully. Any other views, Dr. Kwokaki? I thank deputations, especially the young representatives, to come. There are, because it's not easy for them. For for some associations, for example, we understand that it's easy for them to find supporters, and the so-called Compatriots Association and the Klansmen Association all put forward the same point. Now, there are suggestions that the proposals in the second round consultation is not a genuine universal suffrage. And for the equal right to make nominations and to vote, this is the wish of the people, and this cannot be seen in the proposal. In North Korea, in Iran, they have similar fake referendum. They don't have genuine candidates for people to choose. And if this happens in Hong Kong, this will only cause a greater divide in society, and governance will not be smooth. As the members of the pro-establishment put it, if next time somebody like C.Y. Leung or Donald Tsang's tone is returned, there will be even a greater divide in society. And just now, Undersecretary gave a response. I think it's really difficult for us to accept that because he was just like recording machine, playing back the same as proposal under the NPCSC August 31st decision that closed the gate. What I want to say is, if we kickstart the 5-step process again, we can give Hong Kong another chance. because for the democratic movement lasting for 79 days with participation of over 1 million people, we see clearly that we want to have genuine universal suffrage, not a fake one, because there is no participation of the public in nomination. Only 2 to 3 candidates will be chosen to the dislike of our people, and as many put it, these candidates who are not even related to them. I don't think it's acceptable to us, and it's equally unacceptable to pan-democrats, because we see things clearly and we don't want fake universal suffrage. My question is this: isn't it your responsibility to kickstart the 5-step process against the NPCSC decision on the 31st of August as soon as possible, so that we can have genuine universal suffrage, which is the aspiration of many in Hong Kong? Under Secretary, just now when I responded to the point about timetable, I made it clear that under the existing constitutional framework, we are putting forward our proposal in a gradual manner, and we're now in the 3rd step, and that is why a resolution would be tabled in the Council for scrutiny by members and for members to vote on. This will be done in the coming months. If the proposal is passed, we will continue with step 4 and 5, so that 2 years later, Hong Kong people can have universal suffrage to select the CE. If the proposal is not carried, then in 2017, the same electoral method of a 1,200-member EC will be adopted. So, Dr. Kwok, if you're not happy about the 1,200-strong EC, you should support this proposal, or there will be an impasse. Because this is what you want. You don't want to have another EC of 1,200 members again. This will go against the wishes of the people. Well, Chairman, in short, this is two dosages of poison. I'd like the deputation to respond to Ms. Lau Kwong-wah as well. Your time is up. Let's see if we have time left later. Ms. Alice Mack. First of all, I thank deputations for coming here to express your views. We may have different political views, but we should respect the room and the right for others to give their views. Well, some say that some deputations are only echoing what the government says. I don't think this is necessary, or these remarks are necessary. If you really respect democracy, please don't smear those who have the heart to come and give their views on the development of Hong Kong today. I respect everyone. I've been here since 9 this morning, and I respect everyone, regardless of your political stance. I understand that you really are very concerned about constitutional development in Hong Kong, and that's why you've come here to give your views. So please don't smear people by suggesting that they are echoing the government's position. Now, some say, Under Secretary, that the pan-democrats are not going to vote for your proposal. They're not going to vote for you if you don't change. And before the meeting in Shenzhen in late August, they already said that they would vote collectively and there would be no room for change. And I also think the same, unless some members would like to sacrifice their political career and change their minds and not to stand for elections again. This is simply impossible. It's really difficult for you to get a few more votes from them. My question is this: if this proposal is not passed, Does it mean that we don't need to proceed with the remaining legislative process? That is, we can just stop here and use the existing CEO again, Chief Executive Election Ordinance? Under Secretary. Chairman, the point is we don't want to save the effort. We want to make a change, to have one person, one vote. Of course, internally, we're also preparing for the other scenario. We're prepared. But as far as a legislative exercise is concerned, if the proposal is passed, of course we need to have an amendment bill on the primary legislation. If the proposal is not passed, of course we will abide by the existing ordinance, and there will be technical amendments. But I stress that these are just technical amendments. Now, at the outset, you ask whether it is really possible to get a few votes from the Pan-Dems. We don't really have the confidence, and actually some people have told us that they're quite pessimistic. But like I said in the morning, we have never relaxed our effort, and our team has continued to liaise with different members from different political parties. We have been in touch with a lot of members of the public who would like to have one person, one vote, so that they can choose their own chief executive. So I appeal to members for your support, and I also urge members of the public to speak out. Well, Under Secretary, it's pointless for you to ask members of the public to speak up, because some members have said that even according to opinion polls, the package should be supported. They are not going to support it because they are disregarding public opinion. Under Secretary. Well, I just want to say that we should not give up before we really reach a conclusion. If the public continues to express their views, we'll continue to work on it. Now, as far as the election is concerned, 5 million eligible voters may have different political views, but the same goal is that they would like to have one person, one vote. Of course, there are people with different political views, and they stand firm by their views. But at the macro level, if we are concerned about the long-term and overall interests of Hong Kong, I think that it would be beneficial for us to pass the proposal. Mr. Chen Kem-lam. Thank you, Chairman. I thank representatives and members of the public for attending the meeting today. Of course, we heard supporting and opposing views just now, including some suggestions on and response on the electoral method and other details. And I agree with Ms. Alice Mack. Regardless of our political positions, we should respect each other. In particular, there are those who advocates democracy strongly, and the core of democracy is to respect other people's right to put forward their views. If you come here and attack others who do not have the same position as yours, then this is not democracy. In exploring constitutional development, I think it is important that we follow the law. There may be shortcomings in our existing legal framework, and what we should do should be to try to improve it. This may be different or not different from a proposal to improve a livelihood-related legislation. But the most important thing is that there should be a consensus in the community. If there is no consensus, if we only maintain our own stance, if no compromise should be made, it's either according to my wish or I will veto it. Then this is not conducive to our development. As some put it just now, if we don't take a pragmatic approach on the issue and chant slogans only, in the end we won't get any result. Like Mr. Lau Kwong-wah said, if we could take a step forward for the CE election in 2017, that means we can have more options for the formation of LegCo in 2020, and this is part of our democratic progress. If at this stage you don't participate in the consultation and you're going to vote down the proposal, that means the 20-odd members from the pan-democratic camp will be deciding the future of the whole of Hong Kong, and it's really a disappointment.
Some deputations criticize that some people don't know about law. And these people think that they are very familiar with Article 45 of the Basic Law on the election of the Chief Executive, but at the same time they only read out part of that article. Since a lot of Hong Kong public are watching the live broadcast now, under Article 45, the method for selecting the chief executive shall be specified in the light of the actual situation in the Hong Kong Special Administration region and in accordance with the principle of gradual and orderly progress. The ultimate aim is the selection of the chief executive by universal suffrage upon nomination by a broadly representative nominating committee in accordance with democratic procedures. The specific method for selecting the CE is prescribed in Annex 1, Method for the Selection of the Chief Executive of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region. So this article has made it very clear that in Annex 1, the method for forming the nominating committee was mentioned. If we are to play by the law, we have to abide by all the relevant stipulations under the basic law. So it's not up to us to decide. Mr. Yu Si-wing. Thank you, Chairman. The universal suffrage of the CE in 2017 is very important for Hong Kong. It's an important step towards democracy. The democratic development of Hong Kong has been following a gradual manner, and we are going to have one person, one vote. This should be something very straightforward, and this is something everyone can understand. But because of opposition camps and some media, they are trying to complicate the matter. And they are trying to divide the issue into black and white, and there's no room for negotiation or discussion. I think the pan-democrats have to be held accountable because their asking price is too high. And as such, the central government has no room to maneuver. And during two LegCo meetings, they decided to leave. What they're doing is very cowardly, and And as such, the pan-democrats will have even less bargaining power in the future. This is a very dangerous practice. Of course, the Hong Kong and central governments would like to move forward. Even if we cannot go forward, it's not the end of the world, and it's not the end of Hong Kong. This is a very challenging issue, but I hope the government can continue to work hard. Recently, I noticed that some pan-democrats have softened their stance, and some people said that if the government promised to cancel functional constituencies, they are willing to negotiate. I'm not sure whether the administration will make a commitment or at least address this suggestion. As a functional constituency legislator or for other geographical constituency legislators, I think you won't give us the expression that the government will negotiate with the pan-democrats without consulting us first. Mr. Yu talked about our communication with the legislators. As you can see from a lot of news reports, I think it's very obvious. Some LegCo members as well as members of the public have raised a lot of recommendations. As Ms. Carrie Lam said, as long as it's legal and reasonable, we are happy to give it some consideration. And we are happy to see whether we can do some negotiations. At the same time, we hope that legislators would understand if we are to amend the composition of the Legislative Council, we have to first pass the method for the Universal Suffrage of the CE, and after that we have to undergo a 5-step process before we can cancel the functional constituencies at LegCo. So regardless of our communications with the legislators, it must be done under the framework of the Basic Law and the MPCSC decision. My question was, if some pan-democrats negotiate or meet with the government individually, if the government consider their suggestions reasonable, would you first inform the functional constituency legislators first? I've answered the question. Everything will be, all our work will be done in an open manner. We face 70 legislators. We hope to garner support from most legislators, but at the same time, we don't want to lose the support of others. Any other questions from members? Dr. Kenneth Chen. Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Yu, please rest assured the functional constituencies will be here for a long, long time. No matter what the pan-democrats say, they will, you will continue to, you will persist, you will hold your ground, and you will continue to exist. You see that the 1,200 strong nominating committee is largely based on FC legislators. And some people said that we should, Mr. Stephen Ho said we should sacrifice ourselves. My answer is, why don't you do the same? Would you give up the 60 seats you have in the nominating committee? This is certainly something which would not happen, to be very honest. I think the conclusion is very clear. It's set in stone. The central government would not budge on the MPCSC decision on the 31st of August, and it has no intention to negotiate. Mr. Chen Kam-lam said we should respect the council. I think you should relay this message to Mr. Vincent Fang. He should not use bad words. And going back to the problem of negotiation mentioned by Mr. Yu, you should not be very this hard. You are trying to convince the public that we are unreasonable. And when I met Zhang Xiaoming and he said there's nothing such as negotiation. The gate is set. And people are asking us to soften our stance, whereas it's the central government that's refusing to give in. And everyone is saying that they are all for democracy. Are you going to support? Are you going to say support the Communist Party to step down? And so we shouldn't be selective. And within the democratic camp, we have a lot of proposals. You may say that they adhere to international standards, but under the 31st of August decision, all these proposals are not accepted, and there isn't any discussion even. So if you talk about negotiation, if you talk about how stubborn the pan-democrats are, this is the reality. Mr. Chen Kam-lam seemed very reluctant, and Professor Chen is a university professor, and he's a member of the Basic Law Drafting Committee, and he has to concede his ground bit by bit, and people even talked about the blank vote proposal, but the central government insisted that the decision is final, so there's nothing more to say. And of course, everyone can give their views, whether they're pro-establishment and pro-democrats. This is the basic function of the council, so that's why I'm here today. But we have discussed the matters, and we have done our best to fight for a change. I think we are certainly, you can say you're accountable to Hong Kong and you're accountable to the history of Hong Kong, but at the end of the day, the democratic ruling of Hong Kong is a concept many people had embraced, but in recent times it seems the rules are ever changing, and the yardsticks are ever changing. And under the circumstances, you are asking us to take it on board. It's the biggest lie. So as a lawmaker, we should point out these lies. We still have 2 minutes. Our next session will start at 7. So once again, I'd like to thank all of you for coming here today at the expense of your own personal time.